Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive Hobbycast. We are going to be kicking off a series on Asian cinema with a focus of looking at my DVD cover collection. So these are all the covers of most of the official DVDs of the movies I own, mainly martial arts cinema, mainly Hong Kong cinema, but there are other types of genres from other countries in here as well. So we're going to take a look at the DVD covers. I'm going to talk a little bit about them as we flip through them. This is probably going to be a multi-part series. This is also going to be the first video podcast, so hopefully it uploads to everything okay. Then we're also going to take a look at a few of the VCDs that I still own. For those of you who do not know, a VCD was a form of media kind of in between a CD and a DVD. And they were very popular in the Asian countries. And a lot of my Shaw Brothers movies are actually on VCD. And this is one set that I actually kept because I really like the packaging. And it's kind of a deluxe VCD. And that is the One-Armed Swordsman trilogy starring the late, great Jimmy Wang Yu, who just recently died a couple weeks ago, unfortunately. But I still own some VCDs. Unfortunately, I did not keep a lot of my Shaw Brothers VCD jackets when I combined everything. I took all of my DVDs and VCDs out of their cases and put them in binders to save a lot of space because, as many of you know, I collect a lot of things. My house is small, so I had to get rid of the DVD collection as far as like displaying it. So before we jump into looking at the DVD covers, and there are a lot of them, so this is going to be part 1 of X. I'm not sure how many episodes. There are 2 caveats to this. I want to talk about 2 things. The first one is there are 2 confessions. One, when it comes to old school martial arts movies, and I mean the kind that if you're in the US, the kind that they used to show on Black Belt Theater growing up, because that was my introduction to martial arts cinema. When it comes to those old school style martial arts movies, this is hard to say in public, but I actually prefer the dubbed versions. Now, I don't prefer the dubbed versions because I think they are funny or because I like to laugh at the movies. It's not some kind of cultural imperialism. For me, it is all about the sense of nostalgia. And I've talked many times on the channel about how nostalgia is so important to me. And I like those old voices. They bring me back to a simpler time, and I like watching those old school movies in their dubbed format. I do own a ton of them subbed, and I do watch most, like 98% of my foreign cinema and anime and all that stuff I watch with subtitles. But when it comes to the old school martial arts movies, I have a really fond spot in my heart for those old dubs. The second confession is it has been a very, very long time since I have devoted my life to martial arts cinema. I would say I kind of got out of the hobby of collecting and watching and intensely watching martial arts cinema in about 2010. So it's been about 12 years. A lot of my encyclopedic knowledge, a lot of the space in my brain for trivial knowledge has, in that time, since then, has been taken up by other things, such as board games and fantasy books and video game stuff. So I'm not a walking encyclopedia of knowledge. I am not Quentin Tarantino. I am not Mark Pollard. I'm not going to be able to instantly recall every director, every star, every cinematographer. There's going to be a lot of stuff that I have forgotten. Getting into this kind of foreign cinema and so intensely, it is kind of like learning a second language. You are learning new names. You are learning new places. You are learning new words and how to recognize different faces and combine those with names. And so it does take practice to stay in practice. And I am out of practice. So you will have to forgive me. If you like the name of a movie, if you like something you see or something I talk about a movie, just look it up on Wikipedia. You can find out all the information, but I will try to relay as much information as possible. And I'm not going to apologize every time I forget a piece of trivia. So let's get going because this is going to be a long series. We've got a lot to cover. So these are in no particular order. These are in the order that I pulled out of the box when I stacked them. So I'm not front loading anything or side loading or this is going to be actually a surprise for me as we flip through these, and I'm super excited to do it. So the first one here, starting off with a absolute stunner, we have Zhang Yimou's Hero. And this is the DVD version that contains the director's cut. I do not believe the full-length version has ever been released in the United States, which really sucks. There's no reason for this movie to be edited. This is the full-length version. My first introduction to Hero was on a VCD. This movie is absolutely beautiful. Of course, it stars Jet Li, Donnie Yen, Maggie Cheung, and Little Tony Leung. And just a beautiful, poetic martial arts movie with amazing special effects and very much like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It's a lofty movie, and I think it lives up to those lofty terms. So if you have never seen Hero before, unfortunately, if you're in the United States, you can probably only get like the 98-minute version or so. I think the original was 109 minutes, but try to track down an original copy so you can see it in all of its glory. All right, what do we have next? Next, two names that you're going to hear a lot in this list, probably, and that is Choi Hawk, which is his name is spelled Tsui Hark. So you've heard his name mentioned on the Dungeon Dive before. Tsui Hark, Choi Hawk, and Ching Siu Dong. Ching Siu Dong and Choi Hawk, they made some of my favorite all-time movies. Unfortunately, this is not one of them. This is Terracotta Warrior. This was a holy grail of mine, and I just got it a couple years ago, and I watched it, and I was super disappointed in it. Oddly enough, the Warner Archive collection had this. This has been out of print forever, super hard to find, but somehow Warner Brothers ended up with the rights to make the DVDs, so I ordered it from their print-on-demand site here. When I can, I'll hold up the synopsis so you guys can pause and read about the movies if you want. That's a good idea, huh? But the movie, I had heard so much about Terracotta Warrior, and I finally watched it, and it's really boring, guys. It's just not very interesting. But I guess maybe I built it up too much in my head. But I had heard, Ching Siu Dong and Choi Hawk, two of my favorite filmmakers, and they just really left me out in the cold with Terracotta Warrior. All right, another stone cold classic here from Choi Hawk, I should say, and that is Once Upon a Time in China, a movie that needs no introduction, but this was my introduction to the modern era, the 90s era of wire fu wuxia movies. I remember renting this back in the day. These movies used to come on 2 VHS cassettes. And they came on 2 so they could charge the video stores more money. And they were super expensive, like $200 or $300 to buy one movie. And we had a number of Asian video stores in Fresno where I grew up who rented these movies, and we discovered them. And that is when after the Black Belt Theater era, this is when I started falling in love. There are 3 movies, Once Upon a Time in China, Iron Monkey, and Comet Butterfly and Sword, or Butterfly and Sword, that really got me into 90s Hong Kong cinema. And to this day, 90s Hong Kong cinema is still some of the most exciting cinema that has ever been made. Once Upon a Time in China is a classic of the era. You can get these on Blu-ray. You can get these everywhere. You can get them in really nice editions. I have the first 3 on Blu-ray now, but this was the first of the United States, of the US DVDs here. Just a fantastic movie. And Jet Li, this is the movie that kind of propelled Jet Li into international stardom. All right. Oh, cool. The Bride with White Hair. Okay. Oh man, this is so exciting, guys. I'm like flipping through these and just seeing these for the first time in many years. Directed by Ronnie Yu. So Ronnie Yu actually had a pretty cool career in the United States because he directed Bride of Chucky and Freddy vs. Jason. Both of those movies are fantastic. Freddy vs. Jason is, in my opinion, a masterpiece. Bride with White Hair is one of the most poetic of all of the martial arts movies. It is super sad. It's filmed in this very dreamlike and surreal way. It stars the absolutely amazing Bridget Lin as the Bride with White Hair, and Leslie Chung, star of Farewell My Concubine. So he kind of had both Bridget Lin and Leslie Chung were known in the United States, at least to film fans. foreign film fans. But yeah, Bride with White Hair. A lot of these, if you go to Amazon Prime, a lot of them are actually on Amazon Prime. So I know Bride with White Hair is, if you're looking for something kind of haunting and a ghost like martial arts 90s wire fu movie, definitely get this. So Tai Sing, this was a company in San Francisco that distributed a lot of Hong Kong cinema in the United States in the late 80s and 90s. And so this is the company that we always turned to. Interestingly enough, one of the reasons why Hong Kong cinema became so popular outside of Hong Kong is because they were a British colony. And for many years, it was a law, basically, that all of the movies that they made had to have some kind of English subtitles. Oftentimes, those English subtitles were not very good, but it still allowed us to rent the movies on VHS and somewhat understand the story. And so that was a really big boon to Hong Kong cinema in exporting it. All right, coming up next, Green Snake. Okay, another Choi Hak movie, an absolutely gorgeous, supernatural, kung fu kind of wire fu movie. Lots of demons and magic. The opening 5 or 10 minutes of this movie is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. Starring Maggie Cheung, Joey Wong, and Vincent Zhao. Vincent Zhao here, he was not in a lot of movies, but the movies he was in are very good. He starred in 2 great Choi Hak movies. That is Green Snake and The Blade. The Blade is, oh man, The Blade is so good. I cannot wait to come across The Blade. But yep, another great movie. I also believe that Ching Siu-dong also did the choreography for this one. And again, speaking of Ching Siu-dong and Choi Hak, we have A Chinese Ghost Story, the first one. I love that cover. That is one of my favorite covers of all time. I have a poster of that. An incredible kind of kung fu horror ghost story, just lots of great special effects and absolutely wild action. If you really want to see Ching Siu-dong in action, and what he can do as a director, as a martial arts choreographer, this is a great place to start. So interestingly enough, we will be talking a lot about Choi Hak. Choi Hak produced this movie, but the Chinese word that he used as producer kind of translated more to director or producer / director. He would often make like 10, 15 movies in a year, his production company, Films Workshop. And he would pretty much co-direct a lot of the movies that he produced. He was a very hands-on producer. Think of it kind of like Steven Spielberg on Poltergeist. Tobe Hooper is credited as the director, but the movie feels like a Steven Spielberg movie. And that is what happens with a lot of the movies that Choi Hak produces. Okay, so this one is called The Magic Crane. And I cannot remember. This is one of those 90s wire fu, crazy, supernatural kung fu movies starring Little Tony Leung there. So I say Little Tony Leung. There's 2 Tony Leungs. There's Big Tony Leung and Little Tony Leung. I like them both. I prefer Little Tony, so that's I'm going to continue to call him Little Tony. That's kind of like his nickname. I believe this was directed by Ching Siu-dong, but as you can see, there are no English credits on this DVD cover here. This is a pretty hard movie to find. It's called Magic Crane. A fun one. This is like one of those kind of solid 90s Hong Kong movies. It's not great. It's not bad. But when you collect as many as I have over the years, you want them all. And and this is a good one. Okay, and we are back to, I believe, Choi Hak, Ching Siu-dong, and our first introduction to King Hu, or Hu King, as he's credited here. Although this is called The Swordsman. There was Swordsman 2 and Swordsman 3. Swordsman 3 is also sometimes called The East is Red. A big, very big budget production here. King Hu was, I believe he was a Taiwanese director, and he made one of my favorite all-time movies, regardless of genre, and that is called A Touch of Zen. He is what you would call like a real film director. You know, he made like very serious movies. He was brought in to, this was going to kind of be his comeback movie, but I think he was very ill at the time of making it, and he did not actually direct a lot of it. This, and I don't believe he and Choi Hak got along. They're both kind of big-headed, I guess you could say. And I think Choi Hak kind of pushed him out to make this movie. But once again, an absolutely beautiful movie, a little slower than a lot of them, but that was kind of King Hu's modus operandi there. He would make very slow, kind of serious movies. If you have never seen A Touch of Zen, it was recently released on Blu-ray. I highly recommend it. It's like 2.5 hours. It's like the 2001 of martial arts cinema. Beautiful movie. The Swordsman is also pretty dang good. Oh, and here we go. Just an absolute stone cold classic here. Duel to the Death, directed by Ching Siu-dong, starring Norman Chu, I believe. I believe that was his English name that I used to know him by. And yeah, this movie, ninjas, magic, crazy martial arts, late 80s or early 80s, I believe. 1982. So yeah, early 80s, 1982. Super, super fun movie. If you're looking for something that's a little out of like left field, kind of wild, you can absolutely not go wrong with Duel to the Death. Okay, and here we have like the 3 90s beauties here. We have no, I'm sorry. I was thinking this was a different movie. I was thinking this was The Executioners. No, this is Dragon Chronicles, The Maidens of Heavenly Mountain. I have not seen this movie in probably 15 or 20 years. I don't remember a lot of it. Directed by Andy Chin. I don't even really recognize that director. I probably just picked this up because it was yet another 90s wire fu movie to watch. But I'm going to have to watch this one and kind of check it out and try to remember what that one is all about. Okay, and speaking of wild, we have Holy Weapon here. This was directed by, what is his name? I cannot remember his name. I'm gonna have to remember this guy's name because he made some absolutely crazy movies. This is a very rare movie. At least for a while, it was almost impossible to find. I actually saw this at a theater in LA. I think it was like the New Beverly. And this movie has swordsmen who have wings on and they fly through the air with other swordsmen on their backs. It's got this whole like troupe of like virgin women who are like super kung fu power. One of them fights with a giant pair of scissors. Oh man, who is the director? I'll probably find it as I look through another movie. He did Kung Fu Cult Master with Jet Li. Hopefully that comes up soon so I can remember the director's name. But yeah, Holy Weapon. I don't know if you can track this one down. It is worth checking out. All right, here we go. Gordon Liu, Legend of the Liquid Sword. Really fun movie too. Another one with Norman Chu there. I cannot remember. See, Aaron Kwok, Gordon Liu. This is one of those ones that was probably under a number of different names. This is from Xenon Pictures. They put out DVDs of dubious quality in the late 90s, early 2000s, I should say. Who knows how many of these were actually... Oh, Wang Jing, that's his name. Director Wang Jing, yes. Wang Jing is the director of Holy Weapon. And he did Legend of the Liquid Sword. He did and Kung Fu Cult Master. He made some incredibly bizarre movies. And if I remember correctly, he also had some really bad luck with the triads. And he ended up I think he was like forced to make some movies because of some trouble he got in. Pretty wild guy. But yeah, this movie is one of those ones, has lots of magic and weird flying around. Has a blood-sucking Batman. Xenon put out some very low-quality DVDs when martial arts cinema was just hitting DVD. And here we go, Kung Fu Cult Master. All right, from Wang Jing. This movie is insane. Absolutely batshit insane. It has this giant guy, this guy who straps himself to a giant boulder and rolls around to fight. It was supposed to be a trilogy, so it ends like mid-fight, and the other two were never made. But it is totally worth watching because there is enough just absolutely insane stuff. Jet Li, Sammo Hung, Ching Man and Ching Mei Yao. I'm not familiar with those two. Probably if I saw them, or maybe they are sometimes credited under different names. So the naming conventions are different. They will have different names in different countries. They will have sometimes a Cantonese, sometimes a Mandarin way to pronounce the name. So that's why it is kind of hard to keep track of all the different names of actors. And I'm going way too slow, guys. This is going to take me like 15 episodes to get through. All right. Here we have Mr. Vampire. So Mr. Vampire, this was a very, very big inspiration to Sam Raimi. This is a Chinese hopping vampire. If you guys watch the video channel, you know I'm a huge fan of Chinese hopping vampires. And this is one of the best supernatural kung fu comedies ever made. It has Ricky Lau, directed by Ricky Lau, and starring Lam Chen Ying, who was this old dude, this like old school actor who absolutely just rocked it in every movie he was in, sporting that incredible mustache in every single movie. But yeah, Chinese hopping vampires, if you like supernatural kung fu, Mr. Vampire is definitely a movie to watch. Oh, and here we go. All right. So, Boxer's Omen. Boxer's Omen is going to be released soon or just got released by Arrow Video. This is an absolutely infamous movie. This is the liner notes, so we'll probably come across the cover at a later time. But yes, if you have never seen Boxer's Omen and you want a movie that is going to blow your mind in every single way that a movie can blow your mind, you have got to watch Boxer's Omen. But you have to get through the first 20 minutes or so, and there is probably a little bit, if I'm remembering correctly, a little bit of animal cruelty in the movie. A lot of the older Chinese movies, Hong Kong movies, when they killed snakes, they sometimes actually like killed small animals on screen, and that sucks. It was just a different culture, a different time, and I don't like that. I know some people just can't even watch it when it's already happened. So know that going in, but also know that you will never. There has never been another movie even close to Boxer's Omen, and that's all I'm going to say on Boxer's Omen. Flying Dagger. Okay, so this is kind of like a who's who of 90s Hong Kong cinema. We had Maggie Cheung, we had Jackie Cheung, there's Big Tony Leung, so there's the other Tony Leung. We had Jimmy Yip, Shara Chang, and Gloria Yip. So Gloria Yip, she was not in a lot of movies, but I always liked her. And this, let's see, who directed this movie? Directed by Kevin Chu. So I'm not really familiar with Kevin Chu. Maybe we'll recognize his name as we come through more. But this is a pretty typical 90s kind of kung fu flying swordsman comedy. They made a lot of these kinds of movies, and this is another one of those. It's okay. And here's the one that kind of introduced me along with Once Upon a Time in China. But that was Butterfly and Sword, or as we called it when we had it on VHS, we always called it Comet, Butterfly and Sword. And this might have been my introduction to Donnie Yen. And we have little Tony Leung there, Joey Wang, one of the Hong Kong beauties there, Michelle Yeoh, one of the early 90s Michelle Yeoh movies. I know everybody's just like absolutely going crazy for her right now because of that new A24 movie, Everything in Its Place All the Time, something like that. I need to see that. She has always been a favorite actress of mine. Her movies are amazing. And this one is okay, but it has a sequence where a person, and we had never seen anything like this. We rented this movie and it blew our minds because there is a moment where a swordsman launches himself out of his own bow as an arrow and launches himself into a cavalry of horsemen, and he starts spinning in the air and actually like kills all the swordsmen. And at that moment, we were hooked. We had to track down every single wire fu movie that we could possibly find. It was a bunch of us, little like white skater kids, just driving around Fresno to all of the Asian video stores we could find, trying to make friends with the people so they would recommend us movies. And I ended up making really good friends with a guy who ran one store, and so I would go in there and he would always recommend me the good new movies. All Men Are Brothers, Blood of the Leopard. So All Men Are Brothers, based on the huge literary epic called The Water Margin, or The 108 Heroes of the Marsh, I believe. Many, many movies were made off of that series of books. And this stars Big Tony Leung there. Elvis Choi, that dude is hilarious. I love him so much. He's in a lot of like category 3 movies, which are kind of like softcore porn movies. And then you had Joey Wang there, and Lau Ching-wan. Lau Ching-wan, he was in a ton of movies, and this is directed by Chan Woo Ngai. And I do not know who that is. I do not recognize his name as a director, but this is a very cool movie, kind of a more serious 90s movie. And here we go. Another, man, I have some really good Asian DVDs. I am loving looking through all these. So here is another absolute classic from Choi Hawk. This is the movie that made directors in America look at Choi Hawk. Directors like John Carpenter, Rennie Harlan, Wes Craven, Steven Spielberg. This is the movie that got Choi Hawk's recognition around the world, and an absolutely insane movie with so many magical powers and weird kind of 80s special effects. 1983, this came out. It's got Sammo Hung in it, and starring Yin Biao, Bridget Lin, Adam Chang. Sammo Hung plays what was he called, like Whitebeard, I think his name was, and his hair is actually a weapon that grows. And Yin Biao is fantastic in it. Very young Bridget Lin, who is always amazing. I love Bridget Lin so much. She was in Bride with White Hair. Sammo Hung from Eastern Condors. Just a supernatural fantasy movie. If you are a fan of like things like, of those 80s fantasy movies like Neverending Story, and you also like martial arts, you need to check out Zoo Warriors of the Magic Mountain. And now, something a little newer here. A couple Blu-rays here. So Journey to the West. 2 of the Journey to the West movies. Of course, Journey to the West, Monkey, the great Chinese epic, Buddhist epic. Many, many movies have been made based on this. And this was from Stephen Chow, the director of Kung Fu Hustle. And this is a really good movie. Very fun. The special effects are a little shaky because, unfortunately, after in like the late 2000s, the Hong Kong started focusing on making more movies for the mainland, and they started incorporating a lot of 3D special effects because those were huge in China. And I think some of the quality of the movies fell as they started to spend more money on special effects. That's just unfortunate. And here is the Demon Strikes Back, which is, I think, the second part to that. But Stephen Chow has made quite a few movies based on Journey to the West. And I think I'm gonna take a break after this one, and then I will be right back. I need to take a water break, but of course, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. This movie needs no introduction. Ang Lee's beautiful epic starring Chow Yun-fat and Michelle Yeoh and Zhang Ziyi. This was the movie that kind of introduced a lot of Americans to wire fu and this kind of poetic martial arts flying swordsman movie. One of my favorite bands, The Microphones, he released a 45-minute long song called The Microphones in 2020, which is an absolutely just incredible like indie rock epic. And in one of the lines in that song, he talks about how he wanted, when he was making music back when this movie came out, he saw this movie and he wanted to emulate the rhythm of the sword fighting in the rhythm and drums of the bass in the songs he was creating. And I love that reference. I thought that was super, super cool. So we're going to stop there, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. I had to wet my throat a little bit. A lot of talking here, but this is going to take me a long time, guys. I hope people are into this because I'm having so much fun, but I have a lot of movies to get through. This is going to be a very long series, I think. Okay, so we're back to kind of like the big world here. Another Zhang Yimou movie, and that is The Curse of the Golden Flower, starring Chow Yun-fat and Gong Li. This was kind of part of his big trilogy, with Crouching Tiger and then House of Flying Daggers. This is probably my least favorite of those three. It's very extravagant. It has some beautiful costumes and absolutely gorgeous sets. But I just find the movie to it's not very entertaining. It's very dramatic and kind of mean-spirited. But overall, this is probably, of those three movies, this is probably the one that I have seen the least amount of times. And okay, so a very, very fun movie here. Another Wong Jing. So if you see the name Wong Jing on a movie, you know you are in for an absolutely wild time. And this is New Legend of Shaolin, starring Jet Li with a bunch of little kids. And this this movie is just fun. It has some incredible special effects, lots of absolutely insane wire-assisted martial arts, and just that kind of stuff that you only will ever see in 90s Hong Kong cinema. Their movies were so just creative and had such a strong energy, so much kinetic motion in their movies. And Wong Jing was one of the best. This is another one of those, Golden Swallow, starring Anthony Wong. I think this is the first time we've seen Anthony Wong's name mentioned, but he is a fantastic actor. He is kind of like Robert De Niro and Al Pacino mixed together, but I think better than both. He is in some very, very lowbrow movies, but he is also in super highbrow world cinema. And he's in very dark movies like Beast Cop and The Untold Story. And he's also in lighthearted movies. A fantastic actor who just a workhorse of an actor. Golden Swallow is just another one of those supernatural kung fu movies that they made a ton of in the 90s. And who directed that? Oh Sing Pui. Produced by Eric Tsang. Eric Tsang is a really good actor as well. But I don't remember hardly anything about this movie. And speaking of that, we have another one of those, and that is Picture of a Nymph, starring Joey Wang. She was in so many of these same style of movies where she always played some kind of ghost that a martial artist was trying to find. This one does luckily also star Yin Biao, a great performance martial artist, one of the three brothers, Jackie Chan, Yin Biao, and Sammo Hung, who they all learned Peking opera. And this movie's okay, but it is just one of those. That's really the best way to say these movies. This one I actually got at Suncoast Video. I actually really miss Suncoast Video. Suncoast Video had a great martial arts section, and I used to go every Sunday when back in the day when I went to church. And on the way home from church, it was my ritual to go to Suncoast Video, buy 2 DVDs. I always bought 2. I never bought just one. I would buy 2 because if the first one I watched sucked, I would have a backup. And so that's how I ended up with so many of these movies. And then we would take yearly treks. My friends and I would take yearly treks to Chinatown in San Francisco, and we would stock up on movies then. But I remember buying this at Suncoast Video, and I had a lot of fun always going to Suncoast Video on Sundays. I really enjoyed that ritual. Oh, it looks like Sammo Hung. Did he produce this or did he direct it? No, he produced it. Yeah, Sammo Hung produced this movie. Interesting. Sammo Hung often worked with Yin Biao and, of course, Jackie Chan. And here, speaking of Sammo, we have Sammo, the big guy here, in a King Hu film, and that is Odd Couple. I do not remember anything about this movie. It has Lar Kar Wing. Okay, Lar Kar Wing is related to Lar Kong Lao and Gordon Liu. That whole family are real martial artists. Lau Kar Lung was a fantastic director, probably the best director of old school martial arts movies and Shaw Brothers movies. He could actually trace his family lineage back to the origins of the Shaolin Temple. His family had the Oh, I can't remember the style that they practice. Hungar Fist, the Hungar style. And his movies are awesome. Anybody who's involved in that family, they actually have a school, a martial arts training school for actors in Hong Kong. I think it's in Hong Kong, but I've seen a short documentary on it. Very cool. And they are, whenever you see any of them in these movies, you know you're going to be in for a treat. Unfortunately, I don't remember too much about this movie. I didn't even realize that this was actually directed by, oh no, it's directed by Lau Kar-wing. Did I say King Who? Oh yeah, martial law, Sammo Hung and his King Kung Fu. I'm sorry, glasses time. Kung Fu film. Yeah, not a King Who film. This was actually directed by Lau Kar-wing. So, all right. First major mistake there. Sorry. Okay. So another one of those Wu-Tang Clan. So this is one of those movies that just came out, Ground Zero. I would wager a bet that a lot of the movies that Ground Zero put out were actually kind of official bootlegs, that maybe they didn't actually have the rights. Usually their movies were really low quality transfers. Sometimes they were completely cropped and you couldn't even really see the movie. But of course, I would always buy them because they were super cheap. And sometimes you found a diamond in the rough. This one, they tried to capitalize on Gordon Liu being the Shaolin Master Killer, 36 Chambers of Shaolin here. And they would put Shaolin in the 80s. You would add Ninja to any title to get people to rent it. And in this case, people would just add Shaolin to anything. This is called Shaolin Temple, but I do not believe this is the famous. No, this is not the famous Shaw Brothers movie of the same name. A special bonus video from the Wu-Tang Clan. Without Gordon Liu, without 36 Chambers, without Shaolin Master Killer, there would be no Wu-Tang Clan. However, Wu-Tang Clan were not the originators of Kung Fu hip hop. That goes to the Fushnikins. The Fushnikins were doing Kung Fu hip hop like at least 3 years before Wu-Tang put out their album. So if you have not heard the first Fushnikins album, check that out. Okay, so this is a super rare movie, at least it was when I was collecting. This is Fire Dragon, an awesome movie starring the incredible Bridget Lin and Lam Ching Ha. That's her Chinese name, Lam Ching Ha, Bridget Lin. And I do not remember who directed this. I want to say it was Ching Siu-dong, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I like this movie quite a bit. I spent a lot of time tracking this movie down, and I was super happy when I finally found a copy of that one. Witch from Nepal. Okay, so this another directed by Ching Siu-dong. Yep, and starring Chow Yun-fat. Kind of a modern day supernatural movie with some kung fu in it. Pretty interesting movie. Not one of the best movies, but I do remember it fondly. And whenever you see a movie from Ching Siu-dong, you know you are at least going to get some inventive camera work or some, at least like one or two really cool scenes. Okay, another movie with Gordon Liu here, and this was Shaolin versus Evil Dead Ultimate Power. This was part 1 of 2, I believe. Kind of another hopping vampire movie. This came out after Kill Bill, I believe. It came out after Kill Bill, when people were trying to capitalize on Gordon Liu being Pai Mei and Kill Bill. Again, it's more zombies and vampires as the master killer. They in English, whenever somebody writes about Gordon Liu, they always call him Master Killer. He wasn't even that's such a bad translation of 36 Chambers of Shaolin, because Master Killer makes him sound like some kind of assassin. He was a revolutionary. He was a monk Sante in the 36 Chambers of Shaolin. He wasn't a master killer. Okay. I'll get off my soapbox for that. But this movie is only okay. And I remember the second part being even worse. Just one of those kind of like throwaway movies that, of course, I bought because, hey, why not? And then we have Zen of Sword. I do not remember anything about Zen of Sword. A royal legacy lies in the swords of two warriors. Directed by Yuming Sang, starring Michelle Reese, Cynthia Khan. Okay, Cynthia Khan was a pretty big actress. And Vice Lee. Wow, I don't remember anything about this movie. I should watch this movie to see if it is worth remembering. But Zen of Sword. Okay, I think this is our first Japanese movie, and I know this movie is Japanese, but I do not remember the name of it. This looks like a probably some kind of bootleg I got in Chinatown, I think in Vancouver. Princess something, I believe this movie is called. Princess, she was a Japanese pop star who was in a couple movies. Princess Sword. Not very good. That's what I remember about this movie. It was one of those movies that came out, everybody was talking about, and it just ended up not being very good. And I do not remember the name of that one. Iceman Cometh, another Yin Biao movie, starring Yin Biao and Maggie Chung, directed by Clarence Falk and produced by Soo Yuki-yun. Another one of those kind of supernatural movies. I think this one is Yin Biao is frozen in time, or two warriors are frozen in time and they come back, they get thawed out and come back to life in modern Hong Kong. So kind of a different story set up for a similar movie where two rivals face off. Oh yes, okay, Lady Kung Fu starring Angela Mao. Very, very good. She was an awesome woman fighter back in the day. Angela Mao, Carter Wong, and Sammo Hung. Just a fantastic cast, also known as Hapkido. So that was like the original name. But in the United States, it got retitled to Shaolin Kung Fu from the Shaolin collection. Probably has nothing to do with Shaolin. Who directed Corey Yun? Okay, so Corey Yun probably did. It says that he starred in it, but he probably also did the choreography because Corey Yun is probably the best martial arts choreographer. And we'll talk a lot about him coming up when we see the Seven Grand Masters. But very good movie. And Crash Cinema. Okay, Crash Cinema was a lot of fun. They put out just kind of like, they were like kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, but in doing so, they actually unearthed some incredibly bizarre, hard to find, lost hidden gems. And Taoism Drunkard is one of those movies, directed by Yung Chung Yan. A lot of these they starred people I didn't know and directed by directors I didn't know. So I don't really know anybody in this movie or much about the making of it, but I do know that it is super fun and that the Crash Masters collection was a really good collection of just kind of bizarre martial arts movies. And speaking of that, we have one of the most bizarre, one of the most hilarious. This movie had to be intentionally funny, and that is Ninja: The Final Duel. It has Shaolin Ghetto Freak. That is that guy's name, Shaolin Ghetto Freak. And I believe this is the movie. Is this... Okay, I know. So it's Robert Tai. So Robert Tai made like hundreds of these super low budget, insane martial arts movies. Lots of ninjas, lots of nudity. I believe this is the one where John the Baptist fights like Jesus, or is it this one, or is it? Okay, so I have to rewatch this, but there is one of the Robert Tai movies where I think John the Baptist fights with a cross, if I'm remembering correctly. That could be a fever dream, but I do know Shaolin Ghetto Freak there is a fighter, and it has like all kinds of crazy people in it. It's almost like a Street Fighter style movie. Worth watching. Crash Cinema. I liked Crash Cinema a lot. Okay, our first Korean movie, and I do not know what this movie is. Let's see here. Okay, so as you can see, this was a bootleg because it is, so this is a total bootleg of a Korean movie that I do not know what it is. So next. Here we go. A movie that I'm sure everybody knows, Kung Fu Hustle. Stephen Chow's best movie. This is a masterpiece. Just no other way to say that. Kung Fu Hustle, an absolute masterpiece. Probably needs no introduction. Everybody loves this movie, and rightly so. It is so much fun. And back to the Crash Masters. All right, the secret rivals. Yes. What was this guy's name? John Liu, also known as like the super kicker. He was always kicking. He had these super long legs. One of very much a super low budget movie, but also a lot of fun. There's Secret Rivals, and there's also Secret Rivals 2, directed by Ng Sing Yun. This is a Northern Leg versus Southern Fist versus the Silver Fox. Secret Rivals, that's a good one. Terrible movie here, Fistful of Yen. I know that wasn't actually the name. This is just one of those super cheap, probably cost me like $3, and I bought. I know nothing about it. Directed by Chen Wai Lan. Starring not that guy. None of this stuff is in the movies. Martial arts tour de force. No. Oh, here we go. Lee Ka-ting, Ma Kai, and Yasuki Kurati. Okay, yeah. Fistful of Yuan. No, thank you. Here we go. Back to the good stuff here with Wing Chun, with Donnie Yen and Michelle Yeoh. Who directed this one? I can't remember. Director, so Yuen Wu Ping did the martial arts choreography, of course. And Donnie Yen, directed by Yuen Wu Ping. Yep. Wing Chun, very, very fun movie. Michelle Yeoh, absolutely kicking ass in this movie. Just a premier example of 90s martial arts cinema from the same team who, of course, did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Iron Monkey, and Tai Chi 2, Drunken Master, The Matrix. Yeah, very, very good movie. Probably most people already know about that movie there. And now we have The New Boss, starring Donnie Yen, one of his kind of more like Rambo-esque martial arts movies. Who directed this one? I do not remember who directed. Donnie Yen did the action direction. This is from Tokyo Shock. They were a really cool imprint of DVDs in the United States here. Starring, I forgot who directed this. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Action director. Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen actually directed the movie. He was producer. So yeah, Donnie Yen's biggest fan is Donnie Yen. He has a big head, but he's always fun to watch. Just a great kind of kinetic and powerful martial arts performer. Can't believe this is another Ching Siu-dong movie. My Schoolmate the Barbarian, starring two pop stars there, Nicholas Tsay and Stephen Fung. This actually has an audio commentary by film expert Rick Myers. Rick Myers is always fun to listen to. I liked him. Directed by Wang Jing, not Ching Siu-dong. Sometimes Wang Jing and Ching Siu-dong, they have this overlap, this crossing over of absolutely wildness. The action director, Ching Siu-dong. Yeah, okay, so that's what I thought. From legendary action director Ching Siu-dong, but here it says that Wang Jing directed. So some conflicting information there. Maybe they worked together. So I wasn't completely wrong on that one. Eastern Condors. Okay, one of those like martial arts war movies, of course, starring Sammo Hung, and a movie actually starring Yuen Wu Ping. So if you want to see Yuen Wu Ping in action, there you go. Directed by Sammo Hung. Pretty good movie. This was Fortune Star was another imprint in the United States from 20th Century Fox that put out some stuff when DVDs were super popular. So Eastern Condors. Sword Stained with Royal Blood. Oh man, this movie is another one of those insane movies. Kind of a who's who. The entire cast is just kind of everybody who was in these kinds of movies in the 90s. Original language version with English subtitles. Directed by Chung Hoi Ching. I don't know who that is really. Cast of Yin Biao was starring in this one. This was a remake of a Shaw Brothers movie, or at least based on the same work of fiction that the Shaw Brothers Sword Stained with Royal Blood is. The Shaw Brothers version, if I'm remembering correctly, is more serious. This is more kind of wacky and fun. And here is another movie that I do not remember. Iron Lion. starring Sixiulun, Chung Bo Man, and Tse Miao. I'm not really familiar with any of them, I don't think. Directed by Lai Chi Ming. Yes, I do not remember anything about this movie. It might be one of those ones that I bought and maybe never even watched. I know there are a few of those. White Dragon by Wilson Yip, starring Cecilia Chung and Francis Ng. This movie has a really cool introduction in this bamboo forest. It has this fight that is really well staged and quite beautiful, but then the movie just never really goes anywhere from there on. So White Dragon. Operation Scorpio, another movie from Fortune Star, and starring Lau Kar-leung. So Lau Kar-leung, if you remember, he was the elder brother of that family. He was Gordon Liu's adopted brother. He kind of adopted Gordon Liu into the family, the Hungar Fist guy. So he was also starred in a few movies. Always awesome to watch him move. His movements are just like mind-bogglingly awesome. Who directed this one? I do not remember. Directed by David Lai. Okay, I'm not familiar with David Lai. I would probably assume that Lau Kar-leung did the stunt choreography. Yes. So Operation Scorpio, pretty cool movie. And we're going to end this episode. Oh my gosh, I have so many more to do. Okay. I might have bitten off more than I can chew in this project, but I'm going to go through all of them, whether people listen or not. Hey, why not? This is like a museum of DVD covers. Project A, absolutely the best Jackie Chan movie. This movie, if you have never seen Project A, I know this one is available on Amazon Prime. Stop right now and go and watch Project A. I believe that he directed it. If I'm remembering correctly, I don't have any credits on this DVD cover, DVD 9. It's obviously some kind of bootleg I probably got in Chinatown somewhere. But yeah, Project A has just Jackie Chan at his absolute action and comical best. Can't say enough good things about Project A. Just go and watch it. Sorry, guys. Well, this was the first episode of my look through my Asian DVD collection. I hope you're getting some value out of it. I am having an absolute blast doing this, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.